Good morning. I'm Councilmember Vincent C. Gray. All right, we'll start on my left and your right. We heard some issues from Stephanie Ross and Alma Gates around the long-term care, assisted living issues as well. One of those was an issue about people being accompanied, when they were going to talk to, being accompanied by the management, I guess, of the facility. When they were going to talk to residents, and residents feeling put upon in an experience like that. And if that's the way it occurred, I can certainly understand.
I could too.
So is that something that's condoned by the department?
It is not. So I'll explain that, because I share your and their concern with that, as well as folks on my team. There are two ways that we are in any healthcare facility. So we go in for routine and we go in for complaint. On a routine, residents of facilities are interviewed as part of that process. On a routine, there is someone who accompanies them. On a complaint, that is not necessarily the case. So this notion that you have complained about an issue and someone from the facility would be there to accompany you or witness your retelling or your details of the complaint, that would certainly be problematic. However, of a surveying of the facility, and this is any healthcare facility, there is an interaction that occurs around all of the issues. We don't consider the complaints to come forward through that process. They tend to come through in another way. What we typically find, however, and Mary Ann mentioned this, is a lot of the complaints in a lot of our long-term care facilities don't come directly to the health department. Mm-hmm. They go through the ombudsman. Mm-hmm. And we talked a little bit about this through the Washington Home closure, is that most families and most residents of long-term care facilities have a history of working directly with the long-term care ombudsman. And so many of their issues they raise to the long-term care ombudsman. They will either try to resolve them. When they can't, they file complaint with us. We investigate, and then we submit response back to the long-term care ombudsman. So there are many people who are in long-term care facilities who never engage directly with the Department of Health. Their level of engagement is directly with the ombudsman, because our response is only to the complainant. And in many cases, it's a long-term care ombudsman. So we have this interesting dynamic of where people will say, well, we never heard back from the Department of Health. Well, you only will if your complaint is directly to us. So we do allow people to, but going back to the original point, we allow people to file a complaint, not have to have someone from the facility be there for the interview. They can be interviewed telephonically by us. So again, no one from the facility has to be there during their conversation with us. So there is no requirement that someone from the facility get to be present for them to tell us what their concerns are.
Yeah, because that would be incredibly inappropriate, it seems to me, and a violation of the transparency, or the confidence.
Or their protections.
Yeah, that's right, exactly, yep.
Which came across to me today as being the primary thing that they are seeking. Mm-hmm. In the assisted living space. Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty obvious to me too that people want to be able to say what they don't think is going well and not have to tell the world in the course of doing that. They want to be able to have confidence that they're telling it to somebody who will investigate it, someone that will do something about it. And I mean, what came across to me, and you heard the testimony as well, is that people are feeling intimidated by the process, if that's the way the process is unfolding.
Yes. But I guess the learning for us is that when we're there once a year for the annual unexpected, is that the residents understand that that is not their only opportunity if they have a complaint, which I believe our team and the ombudsman do a good job of making them aware of. But if that is the impression or perception they have, then maybe that's an opportunity for improvement on our behalf.
As you know,
And
we've
that's
got
something
a
we can
couple of
follow up with
bills
Mark
now
about.
too that have been introduced by every council member. It was a bill that we developed with our staff, a couple of bills we developed with our staff, and that'll be an opportunity, I think, to further address what appear to be legitimate concerns about, how people are treated. And I assume the Department of Health will be the entity that will testify. And I would invite you to come to that, because it will be a way to clarify too, what is a legitimate concern and what is not at this juncture. There's been some concerns expressed too, which I guess I would have to address to him, because he was apparently ill today and couldn't be here, the ombudsman. And that is whether he has sufficient resources to be able to effectively do his job or not. I don't know whether you can address that or not, Dr. Nesbitt.
I can't. I'm not in a position to opine. He doesn't exclusively operate just related to Department of Health facilities. So,
In what ways do you actually work with the ombudsman at this point, the long-term care ombudsman?
So, our primary engagement is that, as Mary Ann mentioned it earlier, is that many of the issues that are raised, they attempt to resolve or investigate, and they engage us when there's something that they cannot resolve, or they bring issues to our attention that they believe require further investigation or require some level of action. They are primarily in place to be an advocate for residents, which I believe all of us have that as part of our charge as well. We don't see ourselves as a protector of bad actors. We see ourselves as being advocates of patient safety and quality in all of the healthcare safety, healthcare arena. We may license and regulate healthcare facilities and license healthcare professionals, but all of them are being given that duty and responsibility and held responsible for taking care of patients and residents. So our partnership is aligned on them being oftentimes seen as the first set of eyes and ears and who patients go to and residents in our long-term care facilities go to for support. And then oftentimes they have this unique responsibility of many of our seniors or people living in long-term care facilities who have no next of kin, who have no durable power of attorney. They act on behalf of that individual. And so sometimes we have to interact with them if there's something happening in a facility where someone needs someone to advocate on their behalf.
You probably heard too, is up to another issue now, and that is